It's over now. These are the words from two-time Capcom Cup champion Mena RD after he finally completed his qualification into the Capcom Cup for Street Fighter 6. Now, you might not know, but this was not an easy ride for our champion, considering the fact that he had to be the most dominant and prolific player in all of Street Fighter 6 on the planet in order to earn that spot. And even after all that performance, it was not likely or guaranteed that he was going to qualify for the Capcom Cup. In fact, after his 4 top 8 major appearances, people were beginning to question the very format for the Capcom Cup this year, saying, how has the most dominant player on the planet, the reigning Capcom Cup champion, not actually managed to qualify for the Capcom Cup? So I'm going to take you now on the story of how Mena RD earned his qualification to the Capcom Cup and the tumultuous ride that he had to go through in order to get through the belly of the beast and punch his ticket to earn the right to compete for $1 million. But to understand all the confusion and the drama, we have to first understand the Capcom Pro Tour. We got to talk about the format. I know I've talked about the format on this channel like 30 times at this point, but we got to do it one more time. And this time, I have visual references. Okay, so previously to 2020, when we actually did things offline, we had pretty much just a series of offline tournaments. You would earn points for a leaderboard. The top 32 best performing players in the world would go to the finals and they would compete to earn the Capcom Cup. But now in a post-COVID world, we have a bit of a weird hybrid system going on. So once COVID happened, we had to make lemons out of lemonade. Sure, close enough. And we had to do regional online qualifiers. So previously, it was more of a focus on getting the top 32 players from all around the world, no matter where they may be from. And it shifted to a format that favored getting the best representatives from every region. It was impossible for different regions to compete amongst each other. So how could you pick the best player between them? When you can't do that, just pick the best player from every region, have them all compete in the finals, and make it more of, an Olympic style or a World Cup style Capcom Cup. So for 2023, even though, mostly COVID has died down and we have returned offline tournaments, the online format has still remained. So there are 3 offline events for the Capcom Pro Tour in 2023. We have EVO, CPT Premier Singapore, and CPT Premier France. However, we also have 18 online premieres. It's region locked, and whoever wins that tournament, it's an auto qualifier, will go to Capcom Cup. We have the World Warrior program, which is divvied up between 26 regions around the world, where players in that region compete in a series of tournaments, and then in the regional final, the top 8 players from that region will compete. Whoever wins that will go to Capcom Cup. And then, of course, the last chance qualifier, one last hoorah right before Capcom Cup to see who qualifies. So a total of 48 qualifiers, mostly representing just the best representatives from each region around the world. But if you notice this, the vast majority of the brackets that are actually getting people into Capcom Cup are all online. And that means that the offline events are that much more rare and treasured because offline has always historically given the best action and the best chance to actually view the players, view the hype, view the crowd, and put on a great show for the spectators. Now, you might be wondering, why are there 18 online premieres for 26 World Warrior events? Well, simple explanation. Here's Canada and US. Basically, the CPT premieres are a superset of the World Warrior regions, so they divvy up the World Warrior regions smaller. So here you have 3 regions for the CPT premieres, but you actually have 5 for the World Warrior. So, CPT premieres are larger regions than World Warrior. That also means is that on average, every region gets about 2 representatives, one from the CPT Premier and one from the World Warrior program. Even regions like Japan, who have historically above and beyond the most top level talent for Street Fighter players like Daigo, Tokido, Fudo, and dead center there, Kakadu. If you don't know that guy, you will soon. Only 2 of these players and the many other talented players from Japan can actually earn a qualification spot. No matter how good they are, even if Japan has the top 100 best players in the world, only 2 of them will be able to earn their spot in the Capcom Cup. And that's kind of strange because historically, Japan has really dominated Capcom Cup in these leaderboards, right? Here's the 2019 Capcom Cup participants, the last version of Capcom Cup that featured the open tour offline circuit. 13 out of the 32 qualifiers were from Japan. So you can see how doing the only 2 per region format can definitely hurt players who are from extremely dense and competitive regions. But at the same time, doing things like World Warrior and the online premieres does give other players from underrepresented regions a shot to compete and do big things at Capcom Cup, right? Here's Vega Patch out of Spain, who qualified through the World Warrior program for Spain back in 2022 for the final Capcom Cup for Street Fighter V, right after he just eliminated Kawano, the 2022 EVO champion in Capcom Cup, to earn 7th place in the final Capcom Cup for Street Fighter V. So he earned his spot through the World Warrior program out of Spain and did big things, made a big splash in the final Capcom Cup for Street Fighter V. Same thing with Ending Walker. He was too young to compete and travel around the world at this time, but he went undefeated in the UK World Warrior program. He's only 16 years old, 17 years old during this season, so he didn't have the means to travel. He had to go to high school, all right? And he ended up getting 5th place in the final Capcom Cup. So the World Warrior program has succeeded in the past of giving people who didn't really have a chance to compete and actually make a big splash in the final end, but at the cost of potentially gatekeeping players who are from really highly competitively dense regions from also getting a spot to compete. So it has its pros and cons. But that said, where does that leave Mena RD? Well, Mena is actually the reigning Capcom Cup champion. He is the one who won it all in 2022, the final Capcom Cup for Street Fighter V before Street Fighter 6 actually released. In the past, if you won Capcom Cup, you would be automatically qualified for the next Capcom Cup. But since it's a new game, Street Fighter V to Street Fighter 6, this auto qualification didn't persist. And we saw the same thing for Kazunoko from Street Fighter 4 to Street Fighter 5. So Mena RD is starting the 2023 season with a fresh game and a fresh slate, like every other player, having to earn his way into the Capcom Cup. And his competitive circuit for this series begins at CEO 2023 in bright and sunny Daytona, Florida. Over 1,000 players registered for this event, and it was the first offline major to crack 1,000 events for Street Fighter 6, a very big achievement. And there was tons of top level talent, including players from all other parts of the world, while the majority of the competition was from NA. You did have players like Phenom come out from Norway to compete, Justin Wong, Punk, and many other high-level players competing at this event. It was super stacked, super hype, and Mena RD ended up getting wins over people like Punk, people like Idom, people like Nephew, and actually won this event through winner side in dominating fashion and earned his first major win for Street Fighter 6. So here he is popping off a little bit, flexing, showing his thing. And where does that leave Mena? Nowhere. Okay, it leaves him nowhere because remember, there's only 3 offline premieres that earn you a spot into Capcom Cup. So while he did win a very impressive event that many people were excited to see and many people watched, and he built his brand and earned a little bit of cash in the process, he got nothing in terms of moving him closer to qualifying for Capcom Cup, because only EVO, the CPT premiere in Singapore and the CPT premiere in France, count as CPT qualifying events, and he's as close as me or you at this moment in terms of getting into the Capcom Cup. But an event that is a part of the Capcom Pro Tour is EVO. So EVO is fastly approaching, and it's set to be the largest offline gaming event ever. I mean, Rick from EVO was trying to do some research to make this claim official, and he says that besides poker, it really does look like this EVO with over 11,000 attendees is actually the largest gaming event ever. And Street Fighter 6 specifically cracks over 7,000 entrants. So this one is the big one. This is like for all, not only the qualification to Capcom Cup, but the bragging rights. EVO has always historically been seen as the most prestigious event to win, and Mena RD has his sights set on an EVO championship for sure. So how does he do? Well, he does so well that he gets some major victories off stream. It's been amazing to see how many high-level players showed up to EVO, but one of the downsides of that is that you can't put everything on stream. Here's Mena RD versus Daigo. They had an amazing set off stream. I mean, it was old school vibes with like tons of people crowding around the setup and everyone recording it. But yes, Mena RD in top 96, I believe, had to put Daigo into losers bracket. He had to go on to also fight Ryusei and Torimeshi as well to move into the top 24. Mena RD definitely did not have an easy path through winners. He had to go through the belly of the beast and actually eliminate some of the best players on the planet. And then who does he run into for his top 8 qualifying match? None other than this lowly JP player here, Kakadu. So Kakadu, he's a name that is familiar to many in the Street Fighter 6 community now, but you might not have been familiar with him before, and you will be familiar with him after this video, because he is the one who stopped Mena RD from getting into winner's side top 8. Mena RD taking a moment to appreciate the loss there. Kakadu popping off because he just made top 8 winner's side at the largest Street Fighter event ever. Mena RD, even though he was final game, final round, is going to have to regroup and try to compete through losers bracket. Up next, he has to go through 2 of the top level competitors that Japan has to offer. He gets a win over Moke in the loser side, and then it's up to Fujimura from Japan to see if he can put a stop to Mena's run. And well, I can already spoil it for you. It doesn't happen.
And that is it. Pack him up. Mena RD
there he goes.
Slaps the ground.
With the emotional pop-off.
Made it into the arena tomorrow.
Mena RD elated with the fact that he finally qualified for a top 8 at EVO. So typically it's top 8 at EVO for Street Fighter 6 for this year. It was only top 6, but he managed to actually get into the finals phase. So he was going to perform on Sunday in the big arena for Street Fighter 6 and to see if he can keep making a run through losers bracket. And so the next day, final Sunday, up first, Haitani, one of the original 5 Japanese gods. Mena RD eliminates 3-1. Up next, Tokido, the man he had to beat in the Capcom Cup 2017 finals, the one he had to reset the bracket against and close it out to win $250,000 to become the first Dominican player to ever win the Capcom Cup. They do the little stare down here, recreating like the Alpha 2 stare down, and they have an amazing set, 3-2. It goes to Mena RD, as close as could be. Then Punk the God up against Mena. Punk was actually up 2-0 against Mena before Mena makes a 3-0 comeback to eliminate Punk. Punk, the most winningest player in Street Fighter V history, and had a long rivalry with Mena. They've gone back and forth in so many high-stakes competitive sets. Mena RD makes the loser's run of a lifetime to eliminate Punk, to then go on to Grand Finals. Grand Finals versus Angry Bird, who has been in the winner's side of the bracket this whole time, looking absolutely unstoppable with his phenomenal Ken play, and Mena RD manages to reset the bracket. And then we see the final interaction between these two, 2-1. It goes down to 3-1. Angry Bird closes it out against Mena RD. So historic losers run, one of the most entertaining top 8s I have ever seen. Mena RD is cooking people up in the losers bracket and makes such an amazing run. But Angry Bird is the one to eliminate him. He congratulates Angry Bird there on that phenomenal achievement. And so Angry Bird is the first person to qualify for the Street Fighter 6 Capcom Cup by winning EVO 2023. And Mena RD, who got all the way to Grand Finals, reset the bracket, took a game off the champion, but ultimately fell. Where is he? Nowhere. Square one. Remember, the format only goes to the first place victor. These are auto-qualifying events. If you get second, last game, last round at a 7,000-man tournament, it does not matter. In terms of the Capcom Cup qualification process, you are as close as Johnny Donuts or, Timmy Two Sweeps in terms of qualifying. So Mena RD has to go back to the drawing board to figure out how he's going to qualify in the next possible event. Meanwhile, next week, it's time to earn some cash. Gamers 8 is an invitational event that occurred about a week after EVO, featuring many of the top level players that were at EVO. It also features the largest prize pool seen for Street Fighter 6 ever. This has a $1 million prize pool, and you can see there the pricing for 16th and above is absolutely ridiculous. $400,000 for first place. Mena RD is part of the elite group of players that was invited out to compete in this event, and he takes full advantage of that. Group A here, Mena RD goes 6-0 in his group, and then he has an amazing run here as well. 3-0 over Punk the God, who he just eliminated at EVO in the losers finals. 3-2 over Cien, and wait a minute, that name again. Who is that? Who is this guy, Kakadu? Mena RD runs into Kakadu, the one who stopped Mena RD's run in winner side of EVO 2023, potentially putting him in a position where he couldn't actually win EVO. Because remember, Mena reset the bracket against Angry Bird. He won the first set against Angry Bird. Potentially, if Mena had the winner side advantage, he might have been in a position to more easily win EVO, get the title, and qualify for Capcom Cup in the very first go, in the very first possible event. But instead, he ran into Kakadu, and once again, Kakadu stops Mena's run. 3-2 to Kakadu, last game, last round, once again, but Mena just could not close out against this player, and he ends up going into the losers bracket and being eliminated at 5th place, and Kakadu goes on to win Gamers 8 in a historic run, one of the best performances we've ever seen from any player, and the amount of perfect parries he did against Angry Bird in the Grand Finals is absolutely phenomenal. Amazing tournament. You should check out the games if you get the chance. But, at the end of the day, I think that's okay for all of these players because this isn't a CPT event. Kakadu, he won $400,000. He's not in Capcom Cup. You're going to see a consistent theme here. They got paid pretty good. I mean, 5th place to get $50,000. Not too bad of a weekend there for Mena RD. And in fact, it wasn't just $50,000. They threw him an extra $10K because he had the best performance in group stages. So I don't think Mena RD is too disappointed in his performance here. He came out very, very wealthy from this event. So I think he's motivated to carry on and see how I can do at the next CPT event. With 1 out of the 3 CPT offline Premier qualifiers down, Mena has his next chance at bat in order to qualify with the Singapore 2023 CPT event. And Mena once again has his sights on first place. You know, he got second place at Evo, was extremely close to earning his spot into Capcom Cup at that moment and getting the championship. Had a great performance at Gamers 8. And, you know, it's been a few months now. There was a big delay between Gamers 8 and the next major offline event, which is the Singapore event. And so, of course, he's looking to have an amazing run. And just kidding, there's Kakadu. Kakadu, once again, shows up in order to stop Mena RD's winners bracket advancement. Kakadu, 3 for 3 for knocking Mena into losers so far at these major events. I was going back through this because I had a fuzzy memory of exactly how Mena's brackets runs went, and I was like, wait, this dude Kakadu is just really trying to stop Mena from getting this Capcom Cup qualification process. Because yes, you can win through losers, but it's significantly harder in order to do so. The winner side advantage is so important, and Kakadu shows up once again, final game, final round, to drop Mena RD into the losers bracket. And after that, he ends up going on a decent run through losers. He beats Goichi 2-0. Mena RD also eliminates Hot Dog 29, one of the strongest DJ players on the planet, 3-2. After eliminating Nauman 3-2, he drops to Moke 3-1. Moke, who he actually eliminated from Evo previously, gets his revenge here. Mena RD ends at a respectable 4th place, and Gashikun qualifies in the grand finals over Chris Wong, and Mena RD is once again left nowhere. Back at square one. No closer to qualifying for Capcom Cup than if he had just stayed home instead of hopping on an international flight going all the way to Singapore and earning 4th place against hundreds of competitors. He is still back at square one. So far, he has a 2nd place finish at the largest gaming tournament ever. He earned over $60,000 by earning 5th place at Gamers 8, 4th place at the next major CPT offline premiere, and is no closer to qualifying than me or you for the Capcom Cup. But do not lambast that. We have CPT Premier France. A mere 2 weeks later, 1 or 2 weeks later, the next premiere is coming up. This is the final offline premiere in the CPT circuit. The final chance for Mena to put on a show for the world and earn his spot into the Capcom Cup. And good news, everybody. No Kakadu. Kakadu is not in attendance. In fact, a lot of players had to drop out of this event, especially from Japan, due to issues with travel, due to the weather, and also the event was in Paris, and there were some issues in Paris at the time. Bed bugs may have been awry, so a number of players had a DQ from the bracket, including this man. So Mena RD breathed a sigh of relief. The player who had actually stopped him from his winner's side top 8 qualifications 3 for 3 times is not in this bracket, so he comfortably secures his spot in the winner's side top 8 of CPT France and will go on to fight against one of the best from France, Valmaster, and he will soon see if he can smoothly transition his way into grand finals and earn a spot into Capcom Cup, and he loses 3-0. So Valmaster, one of the best to ever do it, gets a dominant 3-0 over Mena RD in order to go into the winners finals. So it wasn't Kakadu to do it right this time, but it was Valmaster. But all hope is not lost. Mena RD goes on a great losers run. He wins 3-1 over Hot Dog 29, again eliminating Hot Dog, and gets the run back versus Valmaster 3-1 to get into the grand finals versus Chris Wong. And Chris Wong was just previously in this position. If you recall, Gashikun won in CPT Singapore over Chris Wong. So Chris Wong was so close to winning his Capcom Cup qualification spot and is in that position once again on winner's side, trying to secure his spot over Mena RD, who was hungry to earn his spot as well. And here you can see it was looking really good for Mena RD. If you look at the score here in the very first set, 3-0. Mena RD resets the bracket in dominant fashion. It seemed like Chris Wong was nervous about being in this position again. He didn't want to lose that winner's side advantage. He wanted to win right away and get that Capcom Cup qualification, but instead the reset occurs. Mena RD has all the momentum leading into the final set of grand finals, and with that, Chris Wong qualifies. 3-1 over Mena RD. Chris Wong collects himself and shows some phenomenal loot gameplay and earns his spot into the Capcom Cup over Mena RD, who was once again in loser side of a grand finals premiere event, reset the bracket, but unable to close it out. So after these series of events, Mena RD tweets to the world, "My offline CPT is done for this year. We'll try to qualify online. 2nd, 4th, 2nd. Could not close it out. Sorry, everyone." This caused a lot of commotion in the community. After watching Mena RD be so dominant in so many events, winning CEO 2023, second at EVO, fourth at CPT Singapore, and second at CPT France, it had a lot of people questioning what was going on. In fact, at this time, many people are not too familiar with the CPT format, so seeing Mena RD tweet that he was unable to qualify actually came as a surprise to them. Because remember, previous to COVID in 2019 and previous years, if you performed well consistently, if people saw you in that top 8 stage over and over, you were earning points to qualify for Capcom Cup, and you were pretty much a shoo-in if people saw you enough to be at Capcom Cup. So many people, this was the first time they realized that Mena RD was potentially not even going to earn a spot into Capcom Cup, despite being one of, if not the most dominant players so far in the CPT and Street Fighter 6 season since the game's release. So the tweets started pouring in, where people were really questioning, hey, what is going on here? Wait a minute, there's a chance that Mena RD, the reigning Capcom Cup champion, the most dominant player we're seeing right now, even though he didn't squeak out that CPT win, he was doing phenomenally well and the most consistent player, he might not qualify for the Capcom Cup. Because remember, you look at the previous years, if you had these great performances, you were on the leaderboard. You were going to earn points, and players would be, performing consistently, and the audiences would become familiar with the players performing consistently throughout the offline season, recognize the faces, and follow the storylines as they proceed. So to see the chance for this story to be cut so short, so immediately after being so consistent, was very jarring to people. And in fact, you could have made the argument that he was the most dominant player. And I am going to make that argument. In fact, I'm going to pull up the pseudo CPT 2023 leaderboard that I put together, documenting the stats. Consider, what if we had a traditional offline circuit? So let's go ahead and look at the numbers. Listen, I know you guys love spreadsheets. I had to make another one. So what I did here is I took the placings at the 4 major events we just covered. I threw in Gamers 8. I know it's an invitational, but I feel like it still illustrates this point effectively and had a lot of the top level competition that you see in the rest of the top 8s. And I was wondering, if you awarded these events points similar to the 2019 season, what results would you see? So EVO would be a super premiere, and the others would be premieres. And I did this spreadsheet, put it together, and you can see here that Mena RD would be ranked second behind Angry Bird with 1,140 points, above and beyond many of the other players on this leaderboard. And in fact, you can see here who was qualified. Angry Bird, yes. Chris Wong, yes. Gachi-kun, yes. Kakadu, Mena RD, no. And in fact, beyond that, another great stat here, he is the only player to appear in all 4 of these top 8. He is by far the most prolific player at this time in these competitive events. So it goes to show that I think the complaints were kind of justified, or at least the expectations made sense. People expect the players that they see frequently in these offline events to go far and to go into Capcom Cup. And to be quite honest, a lot of the online premieres that are occurring during this time, they get far less viewership than the offline events because, let's face it, it's just far more exciting to watch the international players all be under one roof, to see the crowd, to feel the energy, to see the commentators get involved and be there in person. It produces a much more intriguing and relatable show, and people can actually see the players, their physical emotions or physical responses to the situation, and it draws a much more human connection. So it makes sense that people would expect, after being in every single top 8 for all of these events, they would expect Mena RD to be qualified. So where does that leave Mena RD and his chances to qualify? Well, remember, during this whole time with these offline events occurring, the online qualifiers have been occurring at the same time, with people trickling in from all over the world. So that still leaves 2 chances for Mena RD to qualify: the online premiere and the World Warrior Regional Finals for his region, US East. But there is a bit of a complication here, because remember how I mentioned that only 2 people per region can qualify, regardless of how many top-level players actually lived in that region? So that left competitively dense regions like Japan in a very tough situation where they have, most of the top players on the planet, but only 2 of them can actually qualify. Well, only 2 people per region can qualify. US East is actually one of the most top-heavy regions on the planet. Mena RD, the 2017 and 2022 Capcom Cup champion, the current reigning Capcom Cup champion, Knuckle Dude Ding, the 2016 Capcom Cup champion, Idom, the 2019 Capcom Cup champion, and Punk the God, the most winningest player in Street Fighter V history, one of the most consistent placing players in Street Fighter 6 currently. And Punk and NuckleDu are currently on my theoretical 2023 leaderboard, number 6 and 7 in the world as well. This region is freaking stacked. And that doesn't even go to include other contenders like Bananakin, who casually gets the #1 ranked player in the world in terms of MR all the time. There are real competitors in this region who could easily put an end to Mena RD's run. So it is not a guaranteed thing that he would qualify through these regions. With that in mind, Mena RD does get to work to set up his qualification for the World Warrior Regional Finals. So the World Warrior events, remember there's 5 qualifying events throughout the season per region. As you compete in these events, you do actually earn points, and at the end of the 5 events, the top 8 players will go to the regional finals. Mena RD, US East #1, he wins it all. He does go to losers early, though. He actually loses a set in top 16 to Coach Steve in the Blanca mirror, so that's kind of a shock, but he cleans up through losers, victories over people like Du and Punk, and goes on to win the first event and earn a good chunk of points. World Warrior East #2, though, not so dominant. He actually ends this event in 7th place. He drops to losers early to Idom 2-1 and is actually eliminated by Bananakin, that super strong JP player I just mentioned, 3-1, only netting 20 points instead of 50 that he got for first in the previous event. And World Warrior #3, 4th place, an improvement from 7th, but far from his first that he had in the first event. And here he drops sets to NuckleDu and Spaceboy, another contender in this region. So it goes to show that US East came to play. Like, this is not a guaranteed thing that he can just win it all when it counts in this region. And then comes World Warrior East #4, where Mena RD is absent because he's going across the planet. At this time, he's trying to go to CPT Singapore in France and try to earn his qualification spot through the actual offline events. But that means that he has to miss some events. So even his position on the leaderboard to qualify is kind of in question here, because you do not just want to be in the top 8 of the leaderboard. You actually want to be on the top 4, because the top 4 players will start the regional finals and winners. The bottom 4 are penalized and start the tournament in losers. And remember, starting in losers is significantly more difficult to win a tournament, and it's statistically very unlikely. So Mena RD at this time, after these 4 events have concluded, is in 4th place by 5 points behind Bananakin and only 10 points behind Idom here. His position in the winner side of the regional bracket is actually in jeopardy because he foolishly decided to go around the world and try to qualify through offline. Should have just stayed home and grinded online tournaments, of course. That said, it comes to World Warrior #5, and in the grand finals, we of course have Punk and Mena RD. Punk actually put Mena in losers in the winners finals 3-2, but he resets the bracket 3-2 last game, last round, and here we have the last game with Mena RD over Punk. He takes it 3-2 over Punk, which confidently secures his position in the winner side of the top 8 with consistent wins over one of the strongest players of all time. So that sets the stage for the World Warrior US East Regional Final. We have the final standings with these players. You see there, Mena RD is in 3rd place with 150 points, and that sets up the final bracket for this event. NuckleDu versus Bananakin on winners, semis, and on the other side, Punk versus Mena RD in winners. With that said, Mena RD has secured his winner side advantage. He's ready to go into the World Warrior US East Regional Finals and earn his spot in the Capcom Cup, and Punk puts him in losers. Round 1, Punk, who has had a very tough time beating Mena. Their set record at this point was heavily in Mena's favor, actually goes up and puts Mena in losers in round 1, 3-1, and drops him down to the losers bracket. So once again, Mena is just like not ever able to keep that winner side advantage. He has to drop down to losers in order to make his run. But it's a position that he's familiar with. He's been in this spot plenty of times, and he knows how to buckle down and get the job done when it really counts. And so the losers run begins. First up is Spaceboy. The player actually eliminated him from US World Warrior East #3. Eliminated. Idom, who's given Mena RD trouble in the past. Eliminated. The man who put him in losers himself, who made Mena RD work twice as hard. Eliminated. But only one man now stands in Mena RD's way between him and his qualification to Capcom Cup. NuckleDu Dang. NuckleDu has been on a tear this entire season. He's been rocking his signature Guile, and Guile I think is very strong in this version, and he's been one of the players who actually can put a stop to Mena RD's advancement. Winner side Du, Guile, Mena RD, it's time to suit up. And with that, the grand finals went underway. Mena RD quickly racks up the first game over NuckleDu. and is looking primed to take the next game in order to work his way towards that reset. But Do is clutch. Look at the wake up DI there. Calls out the up back Blanca ball and ties up the set 1-1. And then Mena RD did the unthinkable. After being put down 1-1, he immediately goes for the counter pick. The Blanca had been serving him well this entire bracket here, but he does have a pocket JP, which he's worked on occasionally, and tries to bring it out against NuckleDu here. And JP, on paper, according to many players, is the actual counter pick to Guile. I won't speak on my personal opinion on that, but Mena RD believes that this might be his opportunity to pull a fast one over NuckleDu. However, they get down to the wire into a chip situation, and look at this interaction here. Both in burnout, chip away. If you blinked, you missed it. I had to watch this interaction several times to see what had actually occurred. You know, they're just so close. Mena RD actually goes for the spike in order to get a trade with the boom, or in order to clip him before the Sonic Boom made contact with him. But due to the fact that the boom just barely beat him, they didn't even get a double KO. It wasn't even a trade. It was just a clean win here for NuckleDu. If you watch it back in slow-mo, so close. Frames away from this spike actually activating, and that would have resulted in at least a double KO, which would have been 1 point each and put them both to 2-2. But instead, NuckleDu gets the boom out first, and it connects first, and NuckleDu goes up 2-1. 1 game away from eliminating Mena RD, stopping his qualification, and earning his own spot in the Capcom Cup. With the elimination threat, however, Mena RD quickly goes back to the tried and true Blanca and takes a quick game over NuckleDu to tie up the set. I mean, he was just looking super unstoppable with his offense here. Baits the wake up level 3, easy punish for Mena RD. We're now 2-2 in the first set of grand finals. And Mena RD's offense at this point is pretty much unstoppable. He keeps earning burnouts over NuckleDu using his level 2 to get a lot of drive gauge chip, and quickly gets the DI for the unblockable against Du, and has tons of momentum at this point. Going into the reset, he's been in this position before. He's reset the bracket multiple times. Every single time he's gotten to grand finals from loser side at Evo, at CPT France, he's managed to perform the reset, but now he actually has to close it out. This could be his opportunity to actually earn his qualification into Capcom Cup, close out the reset, and get the job done. After the reset, Du and Mena quickly trade some games, or 2 offensive games back to back, and this is a key critical moment. You want to go up 2-1 in the set. 2-1 is a world of difference away from being down 1-2 in a first 3 set. Psychologically, it feels like such a hurdle to overcome when you're down 1-2 in a set, but NuckleDu manages to pull ahead 2-1 over Mena RD, and is once again 1 game away from earning his spot into Capcom Cup. He just has to take 1 more game off of Mena RD, but he failed to do it before, and this time he fails to do it again. Mena RD just is staring down the barrel of a gun. Amazing DI to go through the overhead target combo. Earns the corner positioning here, and look at this sequence here. Meaty stand medium kick to bait out the drive reversal. Gets the full drive rush extension punish. Combo into the level 3 CA, and we have a tied grand finals. 2-2 between 2 titans of the game. The number 2 and number 7 player on my theoretical ranked list. 2 of the most prolific players right now in the world in Street Fighter 6, and they're both 1 game away from earning their spot in the Capcom Cup. And it goes on, of course, to the final round. Final round between these 2 titans of the game, and they're both low in drive meter. NuckleDu with the corner advantage finds an amazing confirm from the boom to drive rush in to score the level 3, which is amazing not just for the damage, but look at the drive meter situation Mena RD finds himself in. And I'm going to freeze frame here after that upside down kick. Mena RD has been in this position before. He's gone to 4 major events with 4 major top 8 appearances. 2 of them grand finals after he's reset the bracket. Championship wins over 1,000 opponents, but he does not have his Capcom Cup qualification process after being the reigning champ from the previous year. He is currently a few pixels of drive meter away from being put into burnout against one of the best chip characters in the game, final round after the bracket reset. He cannot afford to block a single move at this point. Blocking at this point is dying, and he's forced to make a move, and he does. That EX boom, he purposely eats the EX boom to reset the drive meter situation. He'd rather take the health hit rather than take the drive meter hit. It allows him to avoid being put into burnout. He finds the down forward heavy punch into the coward crouch jump extension to pop level 2, get Do into burnout, and Do has no meter after spending his level 3 and is forced to take the entire chip sequence from the mix-ups with the level 2 into the unblockable with the DI with no counterplay available. Allows him to set up the final blockage chant for the mix, and he goes for the throw. Knuckle Do attempted to parry expecting the button, and Mena RD secures the final hit to get him into Capcom Cup. That series of amazing decision making after staring down the barrel of the gun of elimination, after coming so close so many times over and over to getting to Capcom Cup, and he finally gets the job done. And that is because he is the strongest bull. He is a 2-time Capcom Cup champion. He is one of the most clutch players in the game. And with that said, we now have Knuckle Do eliminated. And in the words of Mena RD, it's over now. Congratulations to Mena for earning your Capcom Cup qualification. It was a beautiful journey to behold. I think there would have been riots in the street if Mena wasn't able to qualify, and if he didn't make it through this bracket, he still did have the CPT East qualifier, which will be at the very end of the season, but that's just a one-shot qualification. Who knows if he would have made it in there. It would have been very dramatic to see, but I don't think Capcom Cup would have been quite the same without Mena in it, so I'm very happy to see that he qualified, and I hope you guys enjoyed this journey. If you liked the video, please let me know in the comments, maybe subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.